Oh, and that reminds me, the other part, gaslighting as a process.
Hmm.
And I think that's an important point to go over as well, where I think, and me included, I might have done this before too, but we'll say there's a singular phrase. Oh, that's gaslighting, that one phrase, as opposed to gaslighting as a process of getting people to question their own perception of reality. But could you go over that for us?
Yeah. So gaslighting is this sort of, well, I'll tell you, I think you're referring to one of my posts too, where I
I
posted some.
believe so.
Yeah. Gaslighting is typically, I will say, understood as a process. What that means is it's a kind of a systematic conditioning of a victim from somebody who's intending to gaslight them, that takes place over time, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to create so much truth manipulation, so much denial of um, trying to make somebody feel crazy. They're trying to create a long-term like relationship to this with this tactic so that it really does the job and gets somebody really feeling like they can no longer trust their own judgment, like their perception of reality is distorted
Right.
and they don't know who's right and who's wrong. I say it's a process because to do that to somebody would have to take some time. Like
Sure.
I never understood it as you can be like at the grocery store and then someone cuts in line and you say, hey, you just cut in line, and they say, no, I didn't. And then that's not, I mean, is that gaslighting? I mean, I don't think so. But we were talking before um, this show, and you brought up a good point. And I think um, the way I responded to what you were saying is, if there's like a single sentence, a single phrase that is, manipulative, coercive, it's intended to gaslight, and the individual saying it has that intention to do it, and then the person on the receiving end of it is vulnerable enough to become uh, dysregulated or disoriented by it, wounded by it, and it was just that one sentence, but the intention was there. Like, I'm going to say this one sentence. The intention is to gaslight this person. It's possible that it could occur in just like a single incident like that, I would say, as well.
Okay. And if that person has the predisposition to be susceptible to a narcissistic person's gaslighting, that's when you'd say, yeah, those puzzle pieces could kind of link together like that, and it could create a toxic mesh.
Right. Right.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, and as far as what I would think about that, so the person who butts in line and then they say, no, I didn't, I would say, I get what you're saying. I still might call it gaslighting, but I understand what you're saying, that it would have to be more of the process and to really get them sucked in.
Well, if somebody says, no, I didn't, I mean, they're just lying, right? They're misrepresenting the
Okay.
truth. But I don't know if their intention in cutting and lying about cutting in line is to get me to start questioning my reality. It might just be that they want to deny reality to stay in the front of the line.
Okay. And that's a good distinction too. I've made a video about this before, but lying versus gaslighting. What
Yes.
would you say the difference is between the two?
Well, so there's different forms of lying for different reasons. So lying, that I believe, like just a basic definition of lying, is misrepresentation of the truth for some personal gain. Gaslighting, though, again, that's why I default back to that it's a process. You can lie one time, misrepresent the truth one time, or omit something in order to avoid having to deal with that. Lying by not saying anything or saying what you are guilty of. But gaslighting, at least is the way it's been understood since it was, coined from the film, is it's a long process. Like, it takes, if you're in a relationship with someone and you're trying to get them to question everything about themselves, you're trying to get them to question, your behaviors, their behaviors, your thoughts, their thoughts, skew and distort their reality, change their perception, alter their perception. That is sort of like more of a covert manipulation. can be overt too, but a lot of it's covert. A lot of it's hidden because you're not outright saying, hey, I'm telling you this right now so that you question your reality, right? So there's covert tactics involved with gaslighting. There's overt tactics involved. And it typically takes place over a time because the individual being victimized or gaslit, they're not falling for it right away, or it's not as painful for them right away. It's not till it's been conditioned and drilled in over and over and over again that they start actually questioning. And that varies for everyone. But a lie could just be as simple as, I don't want to get you to question your reality. I just want to get what I want right now. And so I'm going to misrepresent the truth to get it. And then we're going to part ways. And I feel like with gaslighting, there's more of a relationship that has to be established before.
I would agree. And I think the distinction I made was, say someone's lying about cheating, for example. And, I didn't cheat. And there's no evidence that the person cheated. So it's really just a lie to avoid accountability and avoid getting caught. But say there is all sorts of evidence. You see the car in the driveway, and then you see the text messages, and then they still say, oh, no, that didn't happen. That person wasn't there. And not to mention, it's also your fault. Not to mention, it's also your fault, whatever it is anyway. Yeah. To me, that would be the difference of gaslighting versus just a lie.
Absolutely. That's a great distinction.
And another question for you. What is the drama triangle?
Cartman's drama triangle. So I don't think it was always intended to be used for personality disorders, but essentially it's a triangle that helps people understand what role you're playing in a given relationship or interaction or dynamic. And so we have the rescuer, the persecutor, and the victim. Those are the three roles on the triangle. And basically how the triangle works is, if one person is assuming a role, let's say one person is assuming the role of persecutor, there's only two left. So the person who's on the receiving end of the persecution, they can either assume the role of the rescuer or they can assume the role of the victim. Okay. And so now let's say that they become the victim of the persecutor. So now you have a persecutor who's persecuting a victim, and the victim's being victimized, right? This dynamic can be, it have its own issues. But let's say now, let's change it and say that the persecutor is a narcissist. Now the triangle completely changes because it becomes a drama triangle, and the drama triangle is basically the narcissist is gonna choose a position, and then once you choose one, they are going to change another position and maneuver you into another one, and then they are going to change another position and then maneuver you into another one. So there's two ways to see the triangle. One is the way that Cartman originally intended it, and then kind of using it within the context of personality disorders. They basically will intentionally switch the role that they are in, forcing you to take another role. And this is for the one, because they don't solve problems. This is to create drama, stir things up, and keep the problems alive, essentially, while also making the other person feel like they're going crazy.
Right. And I see that a lot in co-parenting situations, the counter-parenting situations where, and the same with therapy with the narcissist. They're not trying to get better. They're not trying to help anything. They're not trying to help the kids. They're just trying to be a pain. They're trying to get under the other parent's skin in any possible way they can. Yeah. And it's like a 5-year-old. And I hear what happens. I hear it from friends of mine. They'll tell me what their narcissistic ex is doing. And it's just out of control. It's just like the most childish of things that if I wasn't familiar with it, and if you weren't familiar with it, we probably wouldn't believe it. You're like, oh, that can't
absolutely
happen. That doesn't happen. They're not that bad.
Because it's unbelievable. When you don't know, and then you hear these things.
Right. Yeah. So, but it is that bad, right? It is, and unfortunately, sometimes it takes seeing it to believe it. But there's a lot of people who have those experiences now, and hopefully, people recognize, it might sound unbelievable, but it absolutely does happen.
Yeah.